Hey y'all, come on and join us for our little supplemental this morning. This afternoon, how about that? It feels like morning to me. This tree is calling me to post up over here. All right, we're going to get started. If you're just joining, if you can help me invite a few of our sisters, that would be great. So I'm going to go over here. This particular tree is calling me. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to go over this way. I haven't been out in nature because of the rain. And, you know, I really love it. Hey y'all, if you're joining, just say hello. This is a beautiful tree. I'm going to turn it around so you can see it. It's a beautiful tree. Yeah, just so pretty. So pretty. When I come out, when I come out, I actually... When I'm in nature, I acknowledge nature. I acknowledge the trees. I acknowledge the birds. I acknowledge them. I don't know about you. Do you do the same? You may have a practice when you go out in nature to acknowledge nature. So I wanted to jump in this today. If you can help me. Hey, sis. Thanks for saying hello. For those of you who are coming in, do you mind the little man with the plus sign in the corner, the bottom corner here? If you can tap it, and anybody that has a blue square by their name, if you can tap invite, hey honey, if you can just tap invite, that would help me out a lot. So hey, welcome to the last day of May. my month, and it's been a interesting month. I don't know, how have you all been feeling? Because this energy that we've been working with has been a very heavy duty energy in Gemini, because this particular new moon was a super moon. So a lot of people leading up to this moon felt lethargic. I tell you, I moved slower on this birthday than any birthday ever. I'm usually full of events, but even my spirit guides were just literally directing me to slow down. So if you all could, yeah, that super moon energy has been big. It's really been big. And I actually dedicate this particular supplemental to the Gemini energy, to those who are governed by Mercury, which would be all air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, and Virgos. And also then the secondary would be fire. If you're just joining, if you can place your actual sun sign in the comments, that would be great. Just place your sun sign in the comments. And hopefully each sister that comes in, she'll be able to see what it is that that we're doing, and can jump right on in and do the same thing. So listen, I wanted to talk, all right, yeah, so we got fire, water in the house. Let's see who else joined. I see that, you know, remember, Facebook does not show everybody that's here. So if you are watching, place your sun sign in the comments. Place your sun sign in the comments. And I'll spend more time sharing a little bit with you all, whoever dominates. So if it's more air signs, if it's more water signs, we'll go that way. So yeah, if you're just joining, place your sun sign in the comments. Thank you. So I wanted to talk to us about, yeah, no, not all that, LaShannon, just your sun sign. Just your sun sign for today. So listen, I wanted to talk to us about us and some of our inner conversations that actually spill over in some of the ways that we talk about any particular thing. And this whole, we're still kind of on the energy of this particular new moon, which is all about language. And one of the reasons that a woman's conversation and how we talk about what it is that we desire is so important is because it's such a powerful tool, what it is that we talk about. And many of us, when it comes to creating what it is that we desire, what it is that we want to ask for, a lot of times we actually talk ourselves out of some things rather than talking ourselves into some things. Okay, so we got Cancer in the house, Scorpio, Gemini, and Leo. Right now, you're the only fire sign in here, Leo. We got a little balance here. So when it comes, I see this all the time, of course, in my work. If you're just joining, invite some of your sisters to join if you don't mind. Inviting some of them to jump on in here with us to get into the space, to share some of this energy. And I'm going to tell you, this conversation is one that is familiar to us, and many of us will say, I already know this. And these are one of the things that we say we know. We already know, we already do it. But the truth is, we compartmentalize when it is we want to affirm what it is that we really desire. We compartmentalize when we are going to gossip. We compartmentalize when we are going to have our outburst and temper tantrums. So we compartmentalize a lot of the things that we say that we already know. So when it comes to us asking for, I'm still inviting if I'm not looking at the camera. When it comes to us asking for what we want from someone or from the universe, a lot of times we talk ourselves out of receiving what it is that we desire before we even get to the creative point of manifestation. And that's what I wanted to share with you all today, because when I talk about talking, I'm not just talking about words, although words are important. I'm also talking about communication in general, because we're living in a world where the communication is based off of a lot of technology, such as texting, this whole Facebook inbox messenger thing, which does not promote truly communicating with one another. In a good way. It's great for connecting. It's awesome when you live abroad, and if you're an immigrant family and you have family that you don't get a chance to see. It's an awesome tool. You know, when I hear noises, I gotta look down and pay attention. Paying attention, being out here in nature. And so one of the things that we do a lot of times when it comes to conversations that we have, when it comes to us being able to ask for what we really desire and express what it is that we really need from the universe, from a community, or from other people, a lot of times we start talking ourselves out of the experience that we desire versus talking ourselves into the experience that we desire. And language has a part to do with it, but mindset feeds the language that we tend to use. And so of course I'm going to give some examples, and I definitely can out myself because I know I am actually ordained minister of the spoken word. Literally, my throat and my mouth are anointed by the Reverend Dr. Iyanla Vanzant with some definite instructions. Even my African spiritual names that were given to me are about the creative energy of my purpose. And so, as women, a lot of times when we are sarcastic, we say that we are joking. The truth of the matter is we're not joking. We can be rather pessimistic sometimes in our conversation or asking for something, especially if we tend to be distrustful. The distrust will come out in the tone sometimes of the way that we may say something, but also now with texting, it can also come out. And you all know texting is the quickest way to misunderstand what it is that someone is conveying. And so that's why we have all these emojis and different things to express ourselves. And then the emojis sometimes feed false emotion because we get into the habit of saying LOL and we're not laughing. How many times have you tapped LOL in a communication, but you weren't laughing, but you did want the person to know that you weren't taking what you were saying serious, or that you did want them to know that there was some lightheartedness in what it is that you're communicating. But when it comes to our lovers, when it comes to our purpose, I'll give an example. So when before I launched into my business, I had all kind of readings, workshops, coaches, mentors, and just sometimes random gifts of light that would show up in other people who would say to me how they saw my purpose and what I could be doing. Oh, LaTanya, why aren't you out here, on the circuit speaking? LaTanya, you could be teaching your own particular school or whatever. And I would say, yeah, but. A lot of times I say, yeah, but usually based on whatever it was my bills were. I got these bills that I got to pay. I need to be able to know how I'm going to pay my bills. I would say things like that, the yeah, but. Well, the truth of the matter is my fear was speaking. I didn't know at the time initially when I first started that I could have also served my truth by saying, I am afraid. Sometimes many of us use too many words to even convey some of the basic emotions because we haven't been taught how to be vulnerable enough to communicate emotions. And so I would say, yeah, but, or I would say, I would think other things, but communicate another reason or excuse why I wasn't stepping into my purpose. Now, when it came to pleasure, I want to break it down into to my story, and you can maybe see your story in some of this. And when it came to pleasure, a lot of times with money, with women, a lot of times it's our men, our money, and our mamas that feed our quiet conversation about what it is and that we are doing and how we're going to show up in the world. Our men, our money, and our mamas. And so a lot of times when there's an invitation to purpose, to pleasure, or to passion, those conversations are just beneath what it is that we language and what it is that we invest in. And so I remember, I tell you all my big yes story, my big yes manifestation where, I really wanted to go on this trip that was for the most part paid for, but I had to come up with some other money. And because I tend to be very responsible, I have a lot of Taurus in my chart. If you're just joining, add your sun sign. I'm going to give you some tips at the end. If you're just joining, whatever your sun sign is, just put it in the chat so I can just see who we have in the room. Add your sun sign in the comment section. And so I remember in that I was really talking more of my anxiety than I was talking about what it is that I wanted to manifest. And sometimes when you are looking to manifest something, it's so easy to just say, but I only have this, I only have that, and make decisions based off of the limits rather than the possibilities. So one of the things that I had to do in that manifestation, I literally had to channel the truth of the power of the word is in your tongue. And so the power of life or death is in your tongue, and the power of the spoken word. And so that was one of the things that I had to shift. And when it comes to passion, Some of us are some very passionate women who have been taught to conform and taught to fit into appropriateness. And so our passion sometimes only comes out when it comes to the way we dress, the way we interact with our children. And for some people, it may come out in service to a whole bunch of other things. But we also can get stuck in the story of whatever it is that we have done our healing work around. I'm trying to make sure I get the light and not step in an ant pile, but I don't think it's too many ants out here. So when it comes to talking ourselves out of it, just think about something that you wanted to ask for, and you start making decisions for other people about what they're going to say or what their response is going to be, and before you even go in to ask. When we do that, then we build up a defense mechanism, or sometimes we are actually insulting the intelligence of other people who sometimes are positioned to help us, to support us, when we make declarations about what it is that we can do, can't do, and we start talking ourselves out of it. If you're single, for instance, a lot of times when it comes to dating, we start talking ourselves out of what it is that we want to manifest in dating, because we join other women who are bitter and who've had a broken experience, a disappointing experience. We oftentimes don't talk to women or surround ourselves with women who are constantly having breakthroughs. And so when it comes to, so breakthrough language is foreign to us. Come on now, think about the time when you just started learning the power of the spoken word through something that you read, who broke down what it is that we are actually doing to ourselves when we speak certain words. And many of us who are Christianized or practice churchology, we know this, and we can quote the scripture around when it comes to the church, and when it comes to what pastor says, and when it comes to our religious mind. Even if you are in a progressive religion or a progressive church or a metaphysician, we tend to compartmentalize exactly where it is that we're going to be positive. But then we'll leave the prayer call with me or with others. We'll leave the church service, and then we will begin to talk normal, as what we call it. Well, what I'm saying to you, for those of you who are on the Good Girls Gone Goddess journey, or the just women growing forth in Goddess, however you are doing that, it's time for you to create a new normal. And be bold and unapologetic about creating a new normal. And you can do that without being dogmatic. What happens is a lot of us have been so redirected around who we are that we feel so wrong, and we have a relationship with God that we're going to get in trouble if we do this, or if we say it like this, or if we too playful or something. And so many of us have basically we made ourselves so appropriate that we don't even know who we are anymore. We don't know our voice, we don't know our sense of humor, and so we gotta be the usher all the time. We gotta be we gotta be sister humanitarian, righteous to the mother, the revolutionary all the time. But what about the soft parts of you, the vulnerable parts of you, that sometimes you need something from the universe or from someone else, and then you begin to talk yourself out of it? I see some of us do this even in processes. We'll come and say, we'll start off our conversation with our post with something negative. Well, I don't normally post. I don't normally have that much to say. Why is that necessary? What is it that you really want the listener to know? What is it that you really want to be understood? Well, you know, I don't trust women, but I'm going to go on and share my story. I'm going to go on and put this in here because, you know, I don't trust these internets. But you posting selfies every day. You don't understand that the moment that you created a profile, that you have basically, well, really when you created a birth certificate, that you are already in the database of the CIA and the FBI. I mean, come on. What are we doing? What are we doing? And so we contradict ourselves because we will only show up where we feel like it's safe. And a lot of that is a part of our legacy as women, particularly melanated women who have had their trust broken at a deep biological level. There's a history of betrayal in the woman experience by her family, particularly by her men, and certainly by making her an object of commerce. Because we can still be an object of commerce as women because we spend our dollars, but we don't use our voice. So here's what I'm saying. When you watch Fix My Life, I know many of you watch Fix My Life, you'll hear Iyanla really press in. And if you've worked with me, you've seen me do the same thing. But you'll hear Iyanla really press in about you've got to verbalize it. Many of us have stopped verbalizing our truth, our story. We don't think that our story is valuable. Or so when we become we practice churchology or Paulinity versus real Christianity, which there is a rebel and an abundance mindset. I like that combination, a little bit of a rebel. Jesus was a rebel. Jesus was, and actually all of the prophets were, because they showed up to give voice to people who had their voice taken by men. But I don't want to get too much into scripture because I could go down the whole list of the Old Testament, New Testament, and the Quran, where we have seen men influence the voice and the truth of people, and when they stood up, they had to be ready to almost give up their life. And sometimes, I love Audre Lorde, who says, speak your truth even if your voice shakes. And many of us don't know the difference between what our truth is and what being honest is. This is one of the greatest gifts that my coach, master coach Ron Davis, peace and blessings upon him, is when he sat down with me one time and he showed me the difference between truth and honesty. And some of us tend to think that just because we can cuss somebody out, and because we can read somebody, and because we can write a post about somebody, you see I got the head going, right? Just because we can do that, just because we could do this on the screen now, we could cut up like that, then we really are using our voice. No. And that's not but when you ask a woman, what is it that you really want? What is it that you really are desiring? A lot of times women who are single, women who are married, women who are single mothers, women who are whatever station in life, usually the accomplished woman can answer the question in terms of material things and outwardly accomplishments. But when the average woman, a lot of times, who got all that neck and all that head, when you begin to ask her what it is she truly wants, a lot of times she cannot answer. Or her truth terrifies her. When you ask a woman what is it that you really want, some of you know how powerful you are, that your truth scares you, so you do not speak it. That tells me that you are a creative being. You know that you are a creator. You know that you are a co-creator with the divine, such that if you are afraid that your deepest truth is going to move heaven and earth for you, then that is the one that you must have the courage to begin to speak and to say. I cannot tell you how long, when I was on a job, I knew that my time was up. My expiration was coming for me to continue to work a 9-to-5 job. I knew that I had a gifting and a calling to do this work because I seen the lives that were changing when I was just doing it part-time, when I was doing it volunteer, when I was building and doing with other people's organizations. I knew it, and my coaches would be in my ear about it, and I would resist it. The second thing, so the thing that we resist sharing, asking for support around, revisiting, is the very thing that we must have the courage to go into rather than the resistance. Sometimes resistance is such a normal. Many of us only know how to communicate in an aggressive way, and we don't know what assertiveness really is. Assertive communication is different from aggressive communication. And so here we are, we have our voice locked down from the first trauma that we ever experienced. And sometimes when you're even in a love relationship, when you get really, really in battle with the person that you so-called fell in love with, the person that you took vows to, when you get really, really in a battle and it gets really heated, a lot of times it's when it's real hot that the truth will come up about why a person doesn't put up with certain things or why they react so suddenly. Do you know that there are people who've been married to men who don't even know that your man was molested? There are women who have been who are in relationships and their significant other may not know until well into it, because in some ways we believe that we are damaged goods by this, and so this affects how we communicate and interact with anyone in the world, especially the divine. And I'll rewind a little bit, because many of us are too angry or too afraid and have been conditioned by a hell and damnation God and a relationship where we're looking outside of ourselves as God, that we cannot even admit the anger that we have with God. And many of us have been faithful to organizations. We've been faithful to churches. We've been faithful to cause. We've been advocates. We've been good wives and good women. And so then when life shows up, what happens to that resentment? Wait a minute. This is what I get for my faithful service. This is what I get for when I followed the rules, when I did it the right way. I still get to experience the same thing of the woman that I judged. You know, the hoochie mama, the tramp, the slut that you judge. Yeah, I still get to experience the same thing that she experienced. How dare the God of my understanding do this to me? We don't get down in God's face like we should and tell the truth, because getting in God's face is to get in your own face. And we won't tell the truth about people we protect. Stockholm syndrome. We protect a lot of times our predators, even if our predators showed up in our bloodline, and we don't tell the story. So I know I went back to our voice, but I'm talking about the resistance. Number 2, resistance that shows up. People have to pull you to do your healing work, pull you and convince you. But nobody has to convince you when your supervisor comes up to your desk and asks you to stay extra or to put in more time. Nobody has to convince you, because you want whatever the reward is that's on that paycheck or the promotion is that somebody can give you. And so now we have developed a relationship where we only really show up our brilliance based off of our performance. Come on now. And so we talk ourselves out of what it is that we really, really, really desire over and over again, and we call it normal. We talk ourselves out of doing so many things because we don't think that we're that powerful. Some of us know we're that powerful, and some of us don't think that we are powerful enough that what your story, your experience of your story matters. Now, the third thing is, don't get stuck in the identification of the story. Even when you finally start talking and finally start telling your story, at a certain point, the story is meant to position you to move into the next chapter of your life. You cannot talk about a chapter 1 experience when your life is proceeding into chapter 13 and chapter 14. Some of us are in different chapters of our lives, but we are still telling chapter 3 stories. So we're stuck in the story. And so your identity is not the abuse that you experience. It may be a part of you, and you don't ever have to deny that part of you for anybody. In fact, there's a difference between spiritual denial and psychological denial. You with me? In spiritual denial, we intentionally stand up to the thing and look that thing in the face and say, I have lied. to, whether it be to myself or whatever. That's the denial. But and here's the affirmation. I know I am truth. I know that I am love. I know that I am compassion. I am. And so I'm going to get into the technology of it. If you're just joining in, place your sun sign in the comments. Let me know what your sun sign is. And I'm going to share a few gems with you at the end. Some bonus gems. So I scratch my head when things get real good to me. You can imagine how good what a good scratch I get when I have a nice little orgasm. I scratch it when it get good to me. And when it get real good to me, when my guides are working with me, I might hold my head. So don't nobody get nervous or nothing when she hold her head. So listen. So the third thing is again, don't get stuck in the story. Some of us continue over and over again with, I don't have no money. That's your story. That's still a part of your story. Because it's been normal to not have any money for what it is that you want. When are you going to question that belief? Because when we're saying we don't have any money, we're saying we don't have any energy. But we have money for what we want. We have money for a lot of things we got loans for. We still paying off. How many of you don't know how you really got through college, but you graduated, you have a degree? How many of you had to fill out every doggone student loan, grant, everything that you had, that you can imagine, just to get from one semester to the other? Because your mama didn't have it. You didn't come from a family of wealth. I'll give you another example about, and I want to say this on that note of wealth and talking about orgasmic abundance, because a part of orgasmic abundance is learning how to make ask and make requests, and to do it in a way that has a formula. And of course, those who will be, if you're interested in orgasmic abundance, the Orgasmic Abundant Woman mentorship, please let me know. What's that 111, Tanaj? Explain. So, I want to close out. There is a formula. Number 5, how to stop talking ourselves out of things. Embrace the interruption. When you start hanging out with sisters who are mindful in speech, they may challenge you on something that's coming out as a negative. Especially if you're in a coaching relationship, if you're in around high performing women, people pay attention to that kind. It's an energy. And so welcome the opportunity to be corrected. Welcome the opportunity. Sometimes when my husband and I are on, we really get focused. And sometimes I'll say something and it'll slip out like normal. And he will check me. And I sometimes get a little, okay. You know, Kendra Lamar got a song out. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sometimes we need to be able to be corrected. And what you do is, when you find yourself being negative about a situation, a desire, stop it. Interrupt it. Stop it. Interrupt it. Stop it. Interrupt it. Then the third thing is cancel it. Stop it, interrupt it, and cancel it. So you realize that you just spoke lack, but you are intending abundance. Catch yourself. Wait a minute. Cancel, cancel, cancel. And then affirm the truth. Affirm the truth. And you keep on doing that until you begin to speak that language. That is why a lot of you come into this space and you say, I don't understand this language that you all are using. It is because some of you who are new to this space are joining women who have been on a journey of Nothing but self-correction, because that is what the human development journey is. But a lot of times we want our pastor to correct us. We want somebody to come and save us because we've been taught a savior theology. And so when you have a savior theology, you have a victim mentality. Throw me a life raft. Throw me a life raft. It doesn't mean that sometimes we don't get in trouble. It doesn't mean that sometimes we don't have to ask people for support. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the place where we feel like we do not have the power. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with who? Who do you think God is? God is. Who do you think God is? God is. In the beginning was the Word. But what word? It wasn't just be, because many of us are not focusing on beingness. Beingness is very, very all-encompassing. Many of us are focused on doingness. And so we're constantly evaluating ourselves based on what we do. Some of you are in relationships and you're talking about, well, I don't know. I'm not happy. I haven't been happy for 15 years. We haven't had sex in 10 years, but you know, my mom and daddy was married for 25 years. And, or sometimes you'll say something. I said, I didn't get married to get divorced. You talk yourself out because the truth of the matter is you are afraid or you don't know what's next. And some of us are so invested in and showing up as though we already know, as though we already have the answer, that a lot of times that our lessons have to come to us with big old life interruptions. Okay. So I want to see who are some of the folks that are in the group, and I'm going to tell you some things. Or maybe I should just go general. Okay, I want to see your comments because some of y'all saying some good stuff. Kimba says, I keep getting breaks in the presentation. I'm going to listen to the replay because you're getting down with it. Oh, really? I haven't had a note of poor connection or anything. Okay. Monique says you got to do the work, especially when it gets hard. That's when you press in. But we'll do the work for somebody else. And then when it's time for us to do the work for ourselves, it's inconvenient. I ain't ready. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna keep going. So let me just do a general because it's a few comments. So I see Aquarius, Gemini, Cancer. Okay. Who else do we have? Leo is in the house. So let me say this. Air signs. Those of you who are air signs, you really cannot get away with some of the things that maybe other signs can, because your energy evolves around communication, all forms of communication, from the words you speak, the words you write, the way you speak it. And literally, this is good news. This is not a burden to be had, but it can become a burden when you do not handle the spiritual gift of your own natal chart in the way that it is a gift. It becomes, and that's why your chart has certain balancing aspects to it, where you have to learn certain lessons if you have too much of one thing in your chart and not enough of or another. So if somebody who, like an air sign that has too much air in their chart, they may talk too much, but they don't know how to get still and to settle down. And air signs are highly intellectual. They, especially Geminis. And there's a reason for that, not just because I am one, but we're talking about certain deities that also influence these particular energies, right? So whereas a Libra, for instance, is governed by Venus, so the Libra energy is going to be more of a partnering energy. Aquarius is an air sign that is more fixed. And so there's two types of Aquarius. There is that gregarious Aquarius, but there is that very introverted Aquarius. Geminis are really tend to be amniverts, meaning we can go out and we can be social butterflies. And then there's this part of us that has to go within and recollect ourselves. So people think that there is some duplicity with Geminis, but that is not true. Most of the signs have some all of the signs have duplicity in them. Okay. Now, water signs are going to talk more about what they feel. So you must govern your energy of feeling with a little bit more of a microscopic lens. So all of your feelings are not true. And so when you begin to speak only what you feel, you begin to think that that is the truth. That's the way it is. That's the way. But so there's a balance in being able to learn how it is, that what is it that I really want to communicate. And so a lot of times, those who are water, air and water really are elements that just manifest differently. They really, okay. I want to get into the chemistry of it. Maybe we'll do that in a workshop. But when you talk about air and water, they really are very similar. So actually, when water signs feel, for them, it is a stretch to talk about the emotions of it, but they feel relieved when they do. So stop talking yourself out of what it is that you feel. Let your feelings be a guide for you to go into a deeper conversation with yourself and what it is that you really desire. Now, fire signs are quick. They just like fire, just like a bic. You can flick the bic and there you got a whole little light. Okay. Fire signs also tend to be very quick-witted, impulsive when it comes to their communication. So sometimes when a fire sign communicates, they may have a burst of energy. And then they slowly, like a fire, if you don't keep on feeding the fire, it dies. So when you communicate, don't talk yourself out of things by jumping to conclusions, by being so impulsive and assuming that the way that you feel it in that moment, because the truth of the matter is a fire sign will not feel it like that in just a few more minutes. Just hang around. They're not going to feel it like that. So even when a fire sign gets ready to, when they are quick tempered. And so you have to be mindful that your temper does not burn bridges for you in your communication, because fire energy can be so impulsive in their communication that sometimes you may want to ask for something, and if you don't get what you want right away, you'll just F it, I'll forget it. Write people off, and then before you know it, you found out that there were other pieces of the information that you didn't have about them, the situation, or yourself. So talking yourself out of something has a lot to do with your chart. A lot of times fire signs have big regrets about how they handle a situation so impulsively, and even the choices that you make. Some of the choices that you make also will have you like, damn, I'm married. I ain't mean to do that. I ain't mean to get married. I'm just kidding. But I'm saying literally fire signs can be that fiery. And last but not least is the earth signs. The only earth sign that really is strong in communication, as strong in communication as a Gemini, is a Virgo. It definitely is a dichotomy, because Virgo energy actually is a more cautious. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, even though it's an earth sign, ladies. So whenever Mercury is on the scene, you're going to have a communicator in some way. So when it comes to earth signs in general, though, when it comes to Taurus and to Capricorn, Their communication is practical. So sometimes for you, you may talk yourself out of things by being too practical about a matter and not giving yourself enough room for imagination, for creativity, for the divine to work and surprise you. Oftentimes, earth signs tend to be very cautious about everything. They move slow, just like earth, you know. And so when it comes to moving earth energy, it takes a lot of water. You have to stay in it, deliberately choose to focus on your emotions in order to be able to even communicate with them. Earth signs tend not to focus on their emotions very much, although they are nurturing, just like the ground is nurturing, just like you can plant something into the earth, you know. But as women, we have to ask ourselves, have we become fertile ground? That the soil that is rich, or have we become stony ground, or have we become hard, impacted ground? That's what an earth sign has to look at when it is that you are looking to communicate what it is that you desire. All of this plays a factor in how we communicate and how because communication is creativity, and you can't be on this goddess journey and have your voice locked, have resistance, stuck in the story. Come on now, y'all with me? Those first three will take you out of the juicy. You will not be juicy, honey. Your juices will dry up on you. You hear what I'm saying? Also, the spirit of correction, looking for the correction, for the interruption. It's going to be uncomfortable sometimes, but you know, notice how you write in text when it comes to you asking for what it is that you desire. When you are able to get to the core, when a woman who has talked herself out of her truest desires when it comes to purpose, some of you are not walking fully in your purpose as artists, as creatives, as medicine women, because you are afraid of this condemnation that has been put on witchcraft. Do you understand, as I close out, that the greatest spell cast that you are working on yourself is your mouth? The things that you say about yourself, and the things that your mama said about you and your daddy said about you, and why is it that the subconscious mind will attach to the negative? Ask yourself that. I love to hear what you think, because when we become all light, we tend to light and love. I don't want to talk about the negative anymore. No. See, there is a light and a dark in all of us, the light and the dark goddess. You go back and retrieve, you descend into the darkness in order to retrieve the parts of yourself that you left there. Some of us have left ourselves in the dark room, and we are been conditioned to be afraid of the dark. But when you understand that as a woman, in the womb is darkness, triple darkness. Life is created there. And so when you walk into your self-development work, you walk into your self-development work with a purpose. I came for this, and I might have to go back in here and get this out of here and put it back inside of me, because I let boo-boo take it out of me. I let the things that my mother's limitations take it out of me. I might have to go back and get this part of my story because I left it there as a victim. But baby, I'm coming out with that piece of my story as a victory, as victorious. You understand what I'm saying here? So don't become so love and light, because when you so love and light, and you won't be able to see your shadow. You won't be able to look and see other people's shadow, because I have been there. I have been in love and light and all the time, and I'm only seeing the best in everything and everybody, and I made myself more susceptible to energetic vampires that will suck the life out of me. Here I am, an empath. and I'm love and light, and I'm empathic. I feel everything. I absorb everything. But I had to learn how to embrace the inner bitch. I had to learn how to embrace the dark side of me. So when you're talking about witchcraft is being practiced when you are ignorant. You are the most dangerous form of witchcraft out there. So in all thy getting, get understanding. But don't just stand under what it is you get. Stand in it. So in all thy getting, get inner standing. You feel me? In all that getting, because when you start talking about witchcraft, the biggest thing that you have to break is the spells that have been spoken on you that you agreed with. Now, I'm not talking about denial to the point where your world is showing up that there's some things that you need to adjust in your attitude and your way of being or whatever the case may be. I'm not talking about that, because sometimes we have bitch defined wrong. That bitch is the one, the world's bitch is the one that shows up on reality TV. Head snapping, all that rockin' popping, all quick to get with you, boo, all of that foolishness. That's not us. In that way, the world has presented a new bitch on the platter. But do you all even know what a bitch really is? Do y'all really know the original meaning of what a bitch is? I'll post it in the group. But leave this broadcast with being in total control or creative power with herself. Bitch. I did a whole workshop. Stacy Muhammad can tell you she was the only one when I had about 3 people show up for my first workshop. Y'all think that this stuff just happens overnight. I love how people just say, I want to be a coach. I just want to, all of a sudden, I'm going to lead women to this and that. But baby, you got to be able to still show up and not talk yourself out of it when only 1 or 2 people show up for your workshop. I've been there many years before we had brand, before we had a brand, and before we had somebody out there trying to promote us. Come on now. So no matter what shows up, and then so I gave you the bonus. I'm going to give one last thing when we talk ourselves out of it. Sometimes it does not show up like you thought it was going to show up. And so we begin to talk ourselves out of, well, I don't know. So our yes is not really a yes. Reverend Kelly said it on the Super Soul Sister Sunday in the 5 steps that she gave, or the 4 steps that she gave. That thing right there blessed me so good when Reverend Kelly said, some of us are saying that we think we're saying yes, but we really are saying maybe. We think we're saying, if I told you what was required of thee, would you still say yes? Y'all we'll say yes, but some of us lying, we'd say no and tell the truth. Hell no, I wouldn't say yes. Then you can be free to create the bigger yes, the real yes, the authentic yes, to yourself first, and then to others. And many of us had our yes taken from us a long time ago, the power of our yes. So listen, stop talking yourself out of stuff. Stop being condescending and sarcastic when you post in group and ask for what you want. Even if you feel shame because you don't have what you need to respond to what it is you want, sometimes what you want will show up when you are just transparent. Not victim, but just transparent. The biggest prayer we can ever say is help, thank you, and amen. So, to that end, I say I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. Thank you all for joining for this supplemental, the G-Spot Live. I love all your comments. Risha says she breaks the spells. Donna Marie said yes, control and creative power. Yes, and that's C in bitch. And Monique says you spoke a great word today. Thank you, sweetheart. Risha says I am a bitch. I'm gonna tell let's get you to own that in a whole different way that means a whole different thing. And great rising to you, my sister, the beautiful. We're gonna have to feature some sisters on some of these lives. Hopefully when I go on vacation, there'll be some of you who will step up. I look for, listen, I'm gonna extend the natal chart reading Today is the 31st. I'm going to extend it one more day for at the 11/11. The 11/11, the half off, a bit of an abbreviated session. But if you want the full session, hey, just send me an inbox and say I want the full session at the full price. But right now I'm going to extend the natal chart reading. You all are having some tremendous breakthroughs from it. Thank you for your testimonies, your feedback. I mean, what can I say? I've been doing it a long time for my private clients. And if you ever want to do private coaching with me, that natal chart also has a strategy and a formula for you as a woman, in your business, in your bedroom, and at the bank. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Ciao, everyone.